Good afternoon, student. Welcome here in your social science class. Student, as you all of you know that we are discussing chapter Weaver, Iron Smelters and Factory Owner from your history. Student, this is your part 2 of the chapter. In part 1, we have already discussed some of the important topics of this chapter, just like Indian textiles and the word market. Then what about some of the words also who tell us about the histories of cotton textiles, just like the cotton textiles which they took back home. Yes, Britishers took back to Europe along with the spices, came to be called calico. What it called? Yes, came to be called calico. And calico word derived from calicut, and subsequently calico became the general name for all cotton textile. Fine. Now student, about the Indian textile in European markets also, just like in 1764 the spinning jenny was invented by whom? Invented by the John Guy, and which increased the productivity of the traditional spindles. Then about the invention of the steam engine also by Richard Arkwright, and in 1786. Yes, so now look at here. Here is a topic. Now let's start the topic. The topic here about the cotton mills come up. Fine. So you must know about the first cotton mill in India. Yes. So the first cotton mill in India was set up as a spinning mill in Bombay, and in which year? 1854. Then from the early 19th century, Bombay had grown as an important port for the export of raw cotton. You can see export of raw cotton from India to England, and from where? China. You know, student, it was very close to the vast black soil. So if we talk about the black soil, as you know about the tract of Western India where cotton was grown. So when the cotton textile mills came up, they could get supply of raw material with these. Now students, just look at here the picture also. Here you can see the picture. Okay, workers. Here you can see the women workers. So workers in a cotton factory. Okay, workers were, yes, workers in a cotton factory circa, and in which century? 1900. So here you can see workers in a cotton factory circa, and in which century? 1900. And about the photography by Raja Deen Dayal. You know, have you observed one thing, student, in this picture? Most workers in the spinning department were women. Yes, as you can see here कि ज़्यादातर जो spinning department में work करती हैं बेटा, वो कौन करती हैं? Women. While workers in the weaving department were mostly men. So here the difference about the spinning department. Who? Yes, women. And what about the worker in the weaving department? About the men. Fine. Then just come back here. So by 1900, now let's talk about the here. So by 1900, over 84 mills. Fine. Over how many mills? 84 mills started operating in Bombay. So here is clear. When was the first mill set up in Bombay? It was in 1854. Until 1900, how many mills? Yes, 84 mills. You know, many of these were established by Parsi and Gujarati. Whom? Yes, many of these were established by Parsi and Gujarati businessmen who had made their money through trade with China. Even what about the other things also? Ahmedabad. If we talk about the Ahmedabad, so the first mill in Ahmedabad was started in 1861. When? In which year? 1861. Then you can say that a year later a mill was established even in Kanpur also, in the United Provinces. United Provinces means Uttar Pradesh. Growth of cotton mills led to a demand for a labor also. So that's why thousands of poor peasants, बहुत thousand of poor peasants जो आए, okay, and artisans and agricultural laborers moved to the cities to work in the mill. You can say in the first decade, fine, in the first few decades of its existence, the textile factory industry in India faced many problems also. So what about the problem? It found it too difficult to compete with the cheap textiles of which, yes, compete with the cheap textile imported from Britain. Okay, even so, look at the another point also. The first major spurt in the development of cotton factory production in India was during the First World War. When? Yes. First World War, when textile import from Britain declined and Indian factories were called upon to produce clothes for military supply also. Okay, you can see that time though it found very difficult to compete with the cheap textiles imported from Britain. Even in most countries also, government supported industrialization by imposing heavy duties on import also. Then but yes, this eliminated competition and protection in fact industries. The colonial government in India usually refused that time, though all of you know about the colonial government. So that time the colonial government refused to which thing such protection to local industry, and at last when, yes, about the First World War, okay, so import from Britain declined and Indian factories were called upon to produce cloth for military supply. उन्हें military supply में cloth करने का, production करने का उनको chance मिला. So that's why the Indian factories were called upon to produce. Okay, now student, look at here the next topic. We will discuss about the sword of Tipu Sultan and woods steel. First of all, just look at the picture, student. Here you can see the picture. Okay, so about the Tipu sword and made it in the late 18th century. Now later we will discuss about the Tipu Sultan. First look at the sword. Here you can see. So Tipu sword made in the late 18th century. Here you can see written with gold on the steel handle. Written with which thing? Written with gold. Okay, and on the steel handle of Tipu sword were quotation from the Quran with message about victorious in the war. You know, notice it one thing, the tiger head also here you can see. So the tiger head towards the bottom of the handle also. Okay, now student, back here. So we begin the story of Indian steel and iron by recounting the famous story of Tipu Sultan. Yes, whom? Tipu Sultan, as you all of you know about, and Tipu Sultan who ruled in Mysore. Where? Yes, he ruled in Mysore until which 1799. So student, he fought 4 wars. So Tipu Sultan fought 4 wars with the British and died fighting with his sword in his hand. No, even at present, Tipu's legendary sword now part of valuable collection in museum in England. कितनी फेमस है बेटा, देखिए आप लोग कि जो टीपू सुल्तान की स्वॉर्ड है वो किसकी उसमें है, म्यूजियम में है, इंग्लैंड. बट डू यू नो व्हाई द स्वॉर्ड वाज सो स्पेशल? व्हाई, क्यों इतनी स्पेशल थी? Because the sword had an incredibly hard and sharp edge that could easily rip through the opponent's armor. So look at here. So you can see that the quality of the sword came from a special type of high carbon steel. Special type of which thing? High carbon steel, and this high carbon steel known as woods. Now, is it clear for everyone? Yes, the quality of the sword came from a special type of high carbon steel, and what it known? It is known as the wood, which was even produced over South India. Now, so student, wood steel when made into sword produced a very sharp edge with the flowing water pattern. Then this pattern came from very small carbon crystals embedded in the iron. Fine. Is it clear for everyone? So one important thing also about you must know about the whom Francis Buchanan. Okay, so Francis Buchanan, who toured through Mysore in 1800, in which year? 1800, a year after Tipu Sultan, that has left us an account of the technique, you can see that, by which wood steel was produced in many hundred of smelting furnaces in Mysore. Now, so student, other thing, the Indian wood steel even fascinated European scientists also. Okay, so European scientists, like you must know about the whom? You must know about the Michel Faraday. Whom? Yes, Michel Faraday, the legendary scientist and discoverer of electricity. जिन्होंने discovery की है किसकी? Discoverer of electricity and electromagnetism. Who? Michel Faraday. He spent 4 years. How many years he spent? He spent 4 years to study the property of Indian woods. Yes, to study the property of Indian wood. And when to when? 1818 to 1822. So he spent the 4 years. However, the wood steel making process, which was so widely known in the South India, was completely lost by the even 19th century. So the wood steel making process, which was widely known, and when? Yes, in South India, and was completely lost by the mid 19th century. The sword and armor industry, making industry, died with the conquest of India by the British, and import of iron and steel from where? From England displayed the iron and steel produced by the craft people in India. So student, for today that's it. So on Monday I will send the rest of the video part of this chapter, and I will send the question answer. So till, thank you all of you. Have a nice day ahead.